Hello everybody, Jose Rodriguez here. It's been a while since I upload a new video, but this is going to be a rather interesting and very valuable, I hope, video for you guys who want to achieve the top quality results when it comes to taking the most accurate shots. In other words, where your actual file coming out of your camera is as accurate as you can possibly get. In other words, the colors that you are seeing or the lens captures and then projects onto your sensor are then translated to a file that represents those colors as accurately as possible. That's the first step. Then you bring it over to your computer, which has to be, of course, displaying your images on a properly calibrated monitor. That's the second step. Now, if you have a printer such as the Pro 1000, you can actually calibrate that printer to produce the most accurate rendition. In other words, the most accurate as set by the factory output of values being sent to it. And of course, we're going to certify that with our standard image. And then number 4 would be to create a custom profile so that you can then produce, again, from beginning to end, your most accurate rendition and also instantly get perfect color balance. Isn't that what we are after? Neutrality throughout. Once you have neutrality, you can then adjust to whatever your artistic eye tells you you should set your images that you're editing to, whatever effect you want to achieve. Hollywood does that all the time. Every single movie you watch at the theater or on DVD has been color graded. It's not the original, perfectly natural and neutral rendition that the camera captures. So let's go ahead and explore the first step, and that is to create a camera profile. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but this is the first thing you must do if you really want to have a completely controlled set of processes from shooting, editing, printing. Okay, so X-Rite sells the color checker passport card, and this is a good one. This is not the one that they usually give you for free when you buy a Color Monkey. This is the one you have to purchase, and they run around $90. You can find them for a lot less than that. The only thing that I tell you right off the bat is to be extremely careful. Do not touch any of these patches because these are your standard color patches, and also it brings a neutral density or an 18% gray card. So you can use that to arrive at a neutral result at your editing level in your computer. So the first thing you should do is open this like so. This is very tight. So open it like that. You're doing a shoot elsewhere, or even if you're flying a drone, okay, with a cinematic type camera, you either want to produce perfectly color balanced video or perfectly color balanced shots. Here's an example right here. This is shot with a drone. Okay, really excellent results. Parrot and AFI 4K 21 megapixel DNG files that are produced by that drone. And again, before I took it up in the air, I photographed one of these. Okay, so here's the deal. You take this and you photograph it under the lighting conditions that you're going to be shooting under. Okay, if you change conditions, you have to take another one. With the software included, which is right here, you create a camera profile. What is going on? What is really going on? Okay, so depending on your type of camera, your model, your make, your lens, any kind of biases that any of these items will introduce will show up because these colors are specific, okay? And so you will photograph this, and then the software will target each one of these little squares and will determine whether what it reads, the screen has nothing to do with it at this point, but what it reads, it will determine how far off or how close the rendition is to these colors. Okay, these original standard control patches, if you will. As it creates a correction one at a time for each one of these colors, it kind of combines everything together and creates a profile for that camera. That camera, that sensor, that lens, and that lighting condition. Okay, so that is critical. Lighting changes. If you are outside shooting during the day, in the morning, the color temperature is different than at noon and a lot different than it is in the afternoon or late evening. So you have to reshoot one of these. All it takes is just one shot. Okay, not a problem. So you go into your computer, and for instance, Lightroom is really, really good for this because you can pretty much instantly load the resulting profile. Give it a name. In my case, it would be Nikon D3300 standard lens. And I then I select all of my images that I shot under those conditions. I apply the profile. I see it automatically, magically correcting colors that were not captured correctly. It will correct them for you individually, not globally, but actually selectively. And if you select all of your images at once, you just hit synchronize, boom. All of them have been now corrected through that one profile. They are as perfect as you can possibly get. Okay? Of course, you have to have a calibrated monitor. If your monitor is off, all of this really is meaningless. So you need to calibrate your monitor with one of the calibrators available out there. I use the Color Monkey. I use an i1 Pro 2. Again, these are the best pieces of equipment because, again, you have to admit X-Rite is the industry standard out there. So say, for instance, you don't want to go through all of that trouble, okay? You just simply want to create a way for you to be able to color balance your one or two images. So in that case, you're just going to shoot this. Okay, you're going to shoot that. Let it shoot it on auto. And then when you open that file in Lightroom or in Photoshop, use your eyedropper tool and just target this area here. It will automatically correct your color. Okay, especially if you are in the develop module in Lightroom. And then once you do that, then you can apply that correction to all of your other images that you shot under the same conditions. Really, really excellent. This will get you spot on as far as the neutrality of your prints. Of course, at that point, you just adjust them any way you want. Now, another method is to simply take, here's another one. This also contains a special calibration card for your scanners. So if you're going to be doing a lot of scanning of photographs and you want them to be scanned and then represented as accurately as possible to the original photograph as far as color, density, contrast, you need to calibrate your scanner and create a profile for that scanner. All right, so now let's just say you don't own one of these and your camera produces a relatively good straight out of the camera result. Say, for instance, you're shooting in RAW. By the way, this is best done by shooting in RAW, okay? Not JPEG. So you need some sort of control. You need some sort of baseline that will allow you to then go into your editing module or program, whatever you're going to use, and then neutralize your image. So you can either use just a straight gray card like this, shoot that, and this will actually provide you, if you take a close-up of this so that it includes the whole frame, then you can just basically use your eyedropper, click on that. It will auto-correct your exposure for you because this represents 50% from black all the way to white. So it'll put you right in the middle. At that point, you can adjust your midpoint whichever way you want to go. But at the same time, it will also neutralize your image to a perfect neutral result, because what it's going to do is going to adjust any kind of color bias that your sensor may have introduced. Maybe this gray surface might look a little bit warm or might look a little bit cool. So by eyedropping this area here, you're going to correct and neutralize this, and then you apply that to the rest of your images. Again, so simple. And it just takes a simple tool such as this. Now, what if I want to do that and also set my white point and black point? You shoot this one instead. The back will be just your white card. It'll just give you a way to just arrive at a perfect white balance, okay? But this one, does the same thing, but also allows you to set your exposure. You set your exposure here, this will put you in the middle. Then you set your black point and you set your white point. In Lightroom, for instance, you can click on the clipping option in your histogram, and it will then show you as you adjust your highlights or your white point and your black point, it will show you when it begins to clip. So you want to be just inside of clipping black and clipping white. And that will give you basically the widest dynamic range you can achieve with that particular camera and lens. And again, this is the simplest way to arrive at the most neutral result on your screen, assuming of course your screen is already displaying your images neutral. You see what I'm saying? So you want to have everything calibrated correctly. And that is all you have to do. So let's go back and review. Camera profile, you can create that and you can apply. The only catch, unless you're working under a controlled environment like a studio where the lighting is always going to be the same temperature, outside conditions will change. You'll have to do one for each session. And if the light is changing drastically, you're going to have to adjust every once in a while, do a new shot of that card. And then through its software, it will create that profile automatically for you. It will correct every color that is incorrectly rendered by your camera. It will correct it what it should be. So when you apply that filter to that very shot that you took, it will match literally that card. Okay, assuming of course again that your monitor is correctly calibrated. You're going to need a Color Monkey, an i1 Studio, or an i1 Pro 1 or Pro 2, something like that, because again, these are the best pieces of calibrating equipment available right now. Spider is good, but it's just not as good as X-Rite. Of course, the price difference might move you over to Spider, but you just have to be careful, do everything very systematic, and be consistent with the Spider calibrators. They seem to not be as consistent as the X-Rite ones. So once you got that set up, in other words, you got your camera profile, you apply it to all of your images. Those images now are loaded in Lightroom, corrected already for you. And now you can just edit at your heart's content. You can actually adjust your color balance to whatever you want, something warm like a nice sunset. You don't want it to be neutral. You want it to be with a bias toward the warm side of things, of color that is. And again, if it's something like a snowscape, you don't want it really neutral. You don't want grays, no, you want it to be a slightly bluish tint. But again, you have to start at a neutral point, and this is one way to start. With that white card, the 18% gray card, and if you really want to get the widest dynamic range, something like this will give you a reference black and a reference white. And then you can set those to just under clipping. That is it. You can apply that to either videography, regular still photography, or drone photography. Again, it's all photography. You're capturing images, and every single sensor out there, I don't care who makes it, I don't care how costly it is, will introduce errors because they are not able to capture the actual colors of a specific scene 100% accurately. So you need to take a picture of this standard, and then the correction profile will be created by the software, and it will take into account any slight imperfections, if you will, in the reproduction of those particular color patches. So this is like your standard image, in other words, except you're using it to create an actual correction profile. So this will be more related to like the patches that you print when you're creating a paper profile. You're just simply taking one photograph before your photo shoot, especially outdoor events like a wedding. You really need to do this to be able to reproduce bridesmaids, very, very delicate lavender dresses or whatever color they may be. Believe me, you better reproduce those colors accurately, okay, if you really want to get a good reputation as a wedding photographer. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to take you over to the computer in the following video, not this one. I don't want to bore you guys to death. And I'm going to show you the simplest way, okay, There's no other simpler way than this to make sure that when a print emerges out of a printer, even if your monitor is not perfectly calibrated as far as luminosity goes, that you do not ever get dark prints. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to do that. You can do it in Lightroom or you can do it in Photoshop and any other tool that has one feature. And I'll make you wait until the next video for that. Subscribe, share, and like. We'll see you this weekend at the live stream. We'll cover some of these subjects there as well for those who do not know about how to really nail down your complete process so you get the best results possible. It takes the camera calibration, in this case the printer calibration, the monitor calibration, and of course a really good ICC profile for that particular paper you're using, in this case a Pro 1000. All right, thank you so much. Happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.